Good morning, Flosstube. I am Elizabeth Martinez, phantastitches, and this is my Flosstube update number 46. And I actually looked it up for sure to get that number correct. Welcome to my Flosstube channel. Welcome to any, to my Welcome back to my subscribers, and welcome to any new viewers. I have a few, just a couple of updates. I only worked on 2 projects out of my Stitch 9 that I'm doing this week, and I don't really have any further, any plans outside of the Stitch 9 challenge at this point. I'm trying to get some of them finished this year. I really have the whole year, I guess, to work on the 9. I feel like I have some kind of deadline coming up, and really the only deadline is for one of the projects because it's for Stitch Shenanigans in April. So I want to finish it soon. But I only have 2 this week that I worked on. So I have a couple of other things to share that I sort of have been thinking about. But first I'm going to take a sip of tea. This is Earl Grey Green, one of my favorite flavors, in my Starbucks cup. Sorry. It's a pretty big cup. I used to teach children's choir back in the day, and one of my choir kids gave me that for Christmas, and it's my favorite cup. I used to have it on my desk at work, and I would drink tea from it because the office, how office environments are. It was kind of cold all the time in there, so I would have tea in the afternoon usually, or sometimes in the morning, but more often in the afternoon during the sort of doldrums, I guess, and if I've been sitting there for a while, I had a friend of mine, I might have shared this story before, but I had a friend that lived not far from me, a few blocks away, and he was in the orchestra with me. And we had become friends years before when he first joined the orchestra, because when I lived in my first apartment, and he lived in his first apartment, and we were right across the street, kind of behind each other. The house I lived in faced 7th Street, and the house he lived in faced 8th Street. These are old turn of the century Victorian houses, whatever, that had been turned into apartments. Anyway, but our like the backyard area of my house and the house next door to me were sort of connected to the backyard of his house, of the house he lived in, and the house next door to him. It was a big area called that was referred to, I guess, as Cromwell Court. The 2 Johnson houses on his street, and the Johnson house and the Turner Carter house on 7th Street that I lived in. And then there was like some little quad 4-plex kind of apartments in between them. It was weird. Anyway, but he lived near me, so we had become friends years ago when he first came to the orchestra. And he was one of the co-concert masters in the orchestra. Anyway, so at one point, I lived in my second apartment. He lived in another apartment. We lived just down the street from each other. But but we had rehearsal one morning. One weekend. We had rehearsal Friday night and Saturday morning, and then a concert Saturday afternoon, I guess, in this little town of Conway, which is about 30 miles from Little Rock. And but he was going to ride with me, so Friday night we went and did rehearsal, and we came back, and we were at my apartment and he was picking up his car to go back, and he said, well, since you're driving on tomorrow morning, I'll go to Starbucks and bring some coffee. What kind of coffee do you drink? And I was like, I don't drink coffee. And he's like, how do you wake up in the morning? I'm like, I just get up. No. Uh, um, I remember if he brought me something to drink, um, like tea or something that morning or whatever. I don't remember. But yeah, he was kind of shocked that I didn't drink coffee in the morning, like so many people do. I just I have never developed a taste for it. My parents, my mom talked about how when she was young, I guess when she was in college, she would drink like, you know, one cup of coffee and be up all night, and she like studying and whatever. But just one cup of coffee would keep her up all night. But then, like when I was a kid, by the time I was a kid, my parents drank so much coffee. They would drink like, in the morning, of course, and then when they came home from work, and who knows how much during the day at work. They uh, my mom was a school teacher. My dad was a computer programmer, and so like whenever they had a break or whatever, I guess maybe. But then when they come home in the evening, they'd have coffee like with dinner and after dinner and then before they went to bed. And they could drink, both of them, drink a cup of coffee and then go straight to bed, and have no effect on them whatsoever. um, but I just never developed a taste for it. As a matter of fact, I don't think I had any kind of caffeine until I was in college. um, when I started college, up until started college, well, no, I guess I had tea, when I was younger. But but I remember when I was in college, um, I didn't drink as much soda. But when I did, like I would drink like Diet 7 Up, and in those days, the McDonald's, at least in my neck of the woods, I don't know if everywhere else, but in McDonald's carried Diet 7 Up, and I think it was the only diet drink they carried. And then they went to like all Coke products, and so they carried Diet Coke, but no other like um, I don't know, I guess they had Sprite a Coke product. I don't know, but they didn't. They had no other diet drinks except Diet Coke, and so I started drinking Diet Coke. I had never had like some since junior high, I guess. I haven't had drinks with sugar in them. I just have, you know. Anyway, so that's when I started drinking Diet Coke. Was like halfway through college or something, and and there was a time when I drank a lot of diet soda. Back in the days of the Coke Wars, I guess. Diet Pepsi and Diet Coke, you could get a 6 pack for 99 cents. And and I guess shortly after I moved to Little Rock, um, I would drink like I was doing Mother's Day out at my church in those days, and so I would drink a soda in the morning, first thing in the morning, like some people drink coffee. I would drink a Diet Pepsi. First thing in the morning, and then at lunch, I would drink one during lunch, and then, uh, in the afternoon or evening when I was at home, I would have another one, and then I would have one with dinner, and maybe another one during at night, while I was watching TV or something. So that was kind of a lot, a lot of soda. And so, shortly after, I cut back, and I got to where I would drink like one during lunch and during dinner maybe or something like that. And now you know, I since I don't go anywhere anymore. I don't go to work or anything like that now. Uh, so I don't drink Diet Coke nearly as often. I'll do like when we go out to eat or something like that, or um, whatever. But at home, I don't drink it anymore. I hardly ever drink caffeine now, I guess. It's kind of strange. But and now that my parents are older and have health issues and all stuff like that, my mom is kind of restricted to drinking. She'll have one cup of coffee in the morning, and no coffee after that. She might have tea if we go out, or if she hasn't had any that morning, she might have a cup of coffee at you know at a restaurant or whatever. But but at home she'll drink like we have like a diet lemonade kind of stuff or whatever, something like that, or whatever. Anyway, I'm talking about caffeine, so I'm gonna have another another sip of my Earl Grey green tea before it gets cold. Okay, I'm gonna talk about cross stitching. So I think I'm gonna talk about my some previous finishes. I came across these some time ago, but I haven't talked about them yet, and um, I don't know. I have to admit that I kind of got my feelings hurt a little bit at Christmas time because my mother is kind of a strange. Um, I, I things I think she would be sentimental about. Sometimes she isn't, and or things maybe I'm sentimental about. And then things I would not be sentimental about. She is. She. I don't know. Like photographs. She has when my sister and I were helping my parents get ready to move down here. One of the things we kept coming across were all these photos, and they were a lot of them were just snapshots of like kids from church and things like that, and just tons of them. And my mom could tell you, oh, this person went to our church and their mother did this and their father did that, and and they had this many sisters and blah blah blah, and like, don't you remember so and so? And I'm like, no, I don't remember them at all. Or all these pictures, yeah, they're familiar, but I don't remember anything about them. Anyway, but uh, she has a lot of things. But I made a lot of cross stitch things for her over the years, and I was kind of surprised when, like, she wrapped a present for me in this little towel thing that I made for her, and it was like fastened with a safety pin or whatever, and 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 she said that it wasn't that she didn't like them, but that they made great Christmas wrapping or whatever. So, and I was like, on the one hand, I do understand because the house that we live in now doesn't have the same kind of like towel bar things that we had before in the old house in the house in Paris Hills in Albuquerque. So there's not as many places for her to hang things up, for when we decorate for Christmas and things like that. There's not the towel bars and to put, Christmas towels and things like that up in the house the way they used to be. It's because everything's different here. But so so anyway, the towel that she wrapped my present in was this one that I made. There's Santa and pulling a sled with a little tree in it, and he's carrying a crook with a bell, And it's one of these fingertip towel things, with a little 8 o'clock insert. And I have this, pattern book in a book of patterns for fingertip towels for the seasons or something like that, or for, I have a couple of them. But I made two, at least two, maybe three of these. But there's one that has a reindeer on it. That's, I don't know, somewhere. But anyway, she used this to wrap a present. And for, she gave it to me, so, I was able to save this. But I was like, that's not really what this is for. But, so I've kept it just to keep it safe. And I don't think that my mom meant any disrespect with with that, but it was just kind of, I was a little miffed. And the other thing was these little stockings I made for, and they came with like just a little 8 o'clock cuff thing. And so I made one because they're small like this. I made one for each of our pets that we had at the time. So Savannah was my older sister's cat at the time, and so I made one. I made one. Hotspur and Cyrano were my two cats. So I made a stocking for each of them, and Cookies, I think, was my brother's dog. And so I think those were the only ones I made. I don't think we had Tomalak. I don't remember doing his name. So anyway, those were the pets we had. And so I made a little stocking for each pet. And we had put these on the tree before, just, as like in decorations or whatever. So these were, among my mother's Christmas things, I guess. And when she was wrapping presents or whatever, she used 3 of these for my niece and my 2 nephews with like coins or something she put in them. And my niece gave me this, but I was like, I didn't make those for, for the kids to have, I just kind of like, I was just kind of upset about that a little bit. But, anyway, I've kept those since Christmas. I don't know how I feel about that. Anyway, the other thing I did was I watched a Flosstube, a couple of Flosstube things, by this girl, and I can't think of her actual name, but the Flosstube channel is Ardith Designs. And one of the things she does is like a Save the Stitches kind of thing. And she gets them at like, what do you call it? Thrift stores. She comes across old patterns and old finished stitching things, and if they're like dirty or damaged or whatever, she takes them takes them out of the frame and washes them or whatever, to finish them, re-FFO them in some way or whatever. Excuse me. But I've been thinking about since when my sister and I went up to Albuquerque to help my parents pack up the house. There were a lot of cross-stitch things hanging on the walls and whatever, that I had done for my parents, from my mother, and a couple I've done for my dad, but most of them I'd done for my mother. But one of the things that I came across, and I talked about it before, I think, was a little ribbon embroidery card, and it's cross-stitch and ribbon embroidery. And it was in like a paper card. It was a little kit that I got. I don't know if I got it with a magazine or if I bought the little kit on its own. I don't remember. But it had like a little cardboard paper, frame kind of thing that you could open up and write a little note in or whatever. But it had a little, little window thing where you could put this cross-stitch embroidered piece. Anyway, but the instructions to FFO it, and I'm sure that this was in the instructions, because it's not something I would think of on my own, to put it together. But it was in there with masking tape. And the whole, the piece was held onto the backing board. It was a piece of mat board, I guess, with masking tape, and then, taped into the frame. but it wasn't in very good condition. The little frame was kind of tearing, you know, and so I had put it with my things to, and I brought it home, and I just had not gotten around to working on it. But the back of it peeled off like in one piece. You know, the masking tape had lost its stickiness, whatever. So it just came off, which was good because it just peeled right off. But so I took the piece out of there and took it off the backing board and everything and washed it. Partly because it was kind of, you know, dusty. It'd been, I don't know, gosh, when I did this years ago. But then so I peeled it off the, you know, the backing thing. So I cut the corners here. This is, you know, to I had done that to, you know, so it wouldn't be so bulky. But and you can kind of see, yeah, it's I don't think it's so much. It's a little tiny bit discolored, but it's creased right here. You know, I haven't ironed this or anything, but I peeled it off and I washed it a little bit, and so it kind of fluffed up these flowers. They were a little flat, you know. But so it's a combination of cross stitch and this ribbon embroidery stuff. And as a matter of fact, I have a big like kit. I don't know if it's full coverage, but it's big. But it's a combination of cross stitch and ribbon embroidery. That's in my stash. I haven't done, because I bought it shortly after I did this, because it was like, you know, a fad for, you know, a brief period. And but so I bought it because it was really pretty, but it's florals and things like that also. But then I didn't do it at the time, and so it's just been languishing in my stash. But anyway, so I did this a long time ago, and I think it said something. I don't know if it said anything up here, or it may have said something different. But I wrote that, you know, when I did it for my mother. It was originally supposed to be for my mother's birthday, and I gave it to her sometime after that. I don't know, about a month or two later. Um, but yeah, so there's that little thing. That's kind of neat. Except I think this is all, I think they're French knots, I think, or something. Yeah, it was difficult. But otherwise it came out kind of pretty. And I like that a lot. And then I did get some, I talked about that I needed to pick up a couple of skeins of DMC floss. And I so I just like went to Hobby Lobby to get that. And I was trying not to spend, you know, extra money, because I was like, I got into the cross stitch aisle, you know, and I was like, ooh, do I need anything? You know, and all there were some nice little kit designs there. I don't know if they were kits or if they're just, yeah, they must have been kits, but they were like, you know, $40 or something like that. They were really pretty pricey for me, for, you know, for just, you know, expenditures that I wasn't planning on. And I was very tempted, though, for some of them. Some of them were pretty nice looking designs, but I was trying to restrict myself, partly because I didn't have a lot of money that day to spend on stuff, but also just because, you know, I wasn't there. You know, I was on my way somewhere else, and my sister and I were just, you know, we just stopped there briefly because I did need the floss. But so I bought just this light blue even weave. It's by Zweigart Artiste, you know, the Hobby Lobby store brand, I guess. But and I have a ton of fabric now, because it's an easy thing to buy and dye, and, you know, it's not necessarily assigned to any project. I just have a ton of it now. So, and it's some of it. It's even weave and Ada cloth. But you know, and I kind of have a lot of it. But, you know, whatever. I'm accumulating it. I haven't sat down and like decided, like, you know, assigned anything to anything. So I kind of want to do that to some degree. Maybe kit up some projects or something like that, um, and see if I have what I have that would be appropriate for whatever what fabric I have would be appropriate for what design or something like that. So that so that way if I need to buy something, um, then I can better know what I need and what I don't need or whatever. Okay, so now I want to go ahead. I really just looking at my stuff. I really only worked on two things, I guess, for the Stitch 9 challenge, um, which is really all I'm doing right now. For this past week, I don't think I did a lot of stitching. I don't think I did very much at all. I don't know if I was busy or why I didn't do it, but I didn't. Anyway, so this is the grapes, the little scissor case that I worked on before. I mean, that I talked about before, and so I did a little bit of work here. My needle. I don't have a needle minder on this, but I think I had done just a little bit up here last time. So I did some more work down here. I had bought some Krynic, purple Krynic and chartreuse Krynic. And so I did a little more stitching on here. I did more of this, It's really hard going because it's black and it's small. This is like, I want to say it's 16 count. So it's just hard to see, of course, being black. But there's not a whole lot of stitching, and I just have to get it done. But anyway, so I worked on this. Maybe I just worked on it Saturday because Sunday was the high tea start, and so I didn't do a whole lot of work on that. But so Sunday, since it was a high tea start, I've been wanting to start this for quite a while. I talked about this. This is the ninth piece that I could not remember because I hadn't started it yet. But it was this little sachet tote here. This picture has a pillow you can do also, but the one I'm doing is this tote here. This was in a magazine. Sorry, this is the full picture. June of 2009, the Cross Stitcher magazine, and I think this is actually on the cover of the magazine. But so I'm doing this little sachet tote down here. This design, violets, and so I started this on Sunday. And this is how far I got. So I've been working on this all week basically. There were some times off and on, but this is the 22 count Hardanger, I think, fabric. It was white originally, and I dyed it with berries. And I just realized the other day that, like, if I make it kind of small like this, I'm liable to cut off the only interesting places on it. But I think so. I think I want to make it a little bit bigger, just to sort of incorporate some of those colors in the fabric. But yeah, and this has like a little margin here that I didn't count when I centered this design. I did it this way, sort of, because this is like an unstitchable margin. It's not really, it's just the selvage edge of the fabric. So I think, trim that off, whatever. But and it's not quite enough fabric to finish all the way around, of course. Like, it would be pretty small this way. So I'm probably gonna, put a backing fabric on it and then just, cut it out in some way. But anyway, I have a little ways to go. I did make some counting mistakes. A couple of them, I think. I think over here, there's supposed to be, I think there's supposed to be one more, like a space or something, one line in here. And so I don't know. I'm gonna have to fake it, But and then there's a mistake. I think I want to say, I don't know, down here somewhere. But it's really very small. It's 22 count, and I'm doing 2 threads over 1. And on some of these, it's very tiny, very hard to get in there. And also, I'm not necessarily, I'm an out and back stitcher, usually, and except, if it makes more sense to do one stitch at a time, I do that. It just kind of depends on where I am and where I'm going and everything else. But one thing that with this fabric, because of the way it's woven, I guess, is that if I'm like, I'll do, like, if something is diagonal, like, I don't know if I get this will focus. Like here, these 3 dark stitches, and there's 2 dark stitches, and they're diagonal from each other. Well, if I were to do all of those at once, then I would do, instead of 3 down here in the bottom, I would do 2, skip 1, and then do the other 2 that are on the, and then come back. As I'm coming back, do 1, 2, skip over, and do the 3rd one that I left out, and then finish the 3. Well, with this fabric, if I skip one like that and skip up, it kind of depends on whether the fabric is going over or under or whatever. Where I am, that one of those stitches will kind of disappear, and it's kind of vexing and hard to do. So I find myself doing less of that and just sort of doing one stitch at a time in some of these, because of that weirdness of the fabric, the thread disappearing underneath it or whatever. But anyway, but I've been able to make it work. And the stitches are so tiny. This count, this is, with the 22, I talked about this before, that making it over 2 over 2, it would be too big. It would be like 11 count, the equivalent of 11 count, and it would take up too much room. But this is coming out very nicely at 22, 2 over 1. Gosh, I can't speak. And I'm stitching it in hand. Last week, the wolf that I talked about, it was on Ada, I guess on fiddler's cloth, or on, I think, but it's an Ada, but it's very stiff. And I was trying to put it in a hoop to work on it, and I ended up just working on it in hand. And I've never done that with a large piece like that. It's a full size, big, piece. And in the past when I worked on it, I've put it in a hoop. But the fabric is very, very stiff, and it's very hard to put. And I found that, because I had just a smaller hoop available for it, that when I put the fabric in, I could put it in the hoop, easily enough. It was, stiff, kind of hard. But the edges of the fabric were very hard, and to try to work around it, they would stick out, and I just found it very annoying. So I just took it out of the hoop and did it by hand. So I've never really stitched in hand except for small pieces, like those little, kits that you would, have a plastic frame, whatever, and they're like often Christmas ornaments or whatever would come like that, and they would come with a little piece of Ada, like maybe this big, a tiny piece of Ada, and so those things, of course, I would hold in my hand and stitch in hand, but it's like a stiff Ada, and so with the wolf, um, what I did following other people's examples of like watching like Bendy Stitches, she stitches in hand a lot, and she would just roll up her fabric, and hold it in one hand while she stitched or whatever. So I did that with the wolf. I rolled up one side of it and stitched. I still do out and back kind of stitching, but I would roll it up so I would stitch in that so I could reach that area more easily. So that's what I've been doing with this. I've been holding it rolled up and holding it in hand while I stitched. Because I might have a hoop small enough, to hold this, but probably not. And it just makes it's just easier to do it, in hand. It's not something I would do all the time. With bigger fabric or different fabrics or whatever, but with the wolf and with this pattern, and actually with this one as well, because it's small and it's on Ada and it's kind of stiff. That holding stitching in the hand has been working out. So I actually have that one and this one and that little penguin card. That I've been doing and the wolf. I've been doing them all in hand. So out of the 5 that I have, 4 of them, I guess, right? Right? Is that what I said? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I've been doing 4 of them. Holding it in my hand. And so it's a little bit new in some ways. For something like the wolf, it's a big. A big piece that I would not normally have done before in hand like that. But it, I found it's not as difficult as I thought it would be, for something that big. Especially because it's so stiff. If it was floppier, if it was a softer fabric, I don't think I would do it in hand like that. But it makes sense for this, for something this small to do it in hand. Anyway, so I wouldn't say I was almost done, but I'm probably about halfway, at the halfway point of this, because there's still a lot of colors, and the color that I'm working on now is this. You can't really tell. It's a sort of a medium green. It's lighter than this darkest green that's on here, but it's hard to see because it's sort of beside and between. Well, you can kind of see in this one some darker green and a medium green here, and then there's this very light green. But this medium green is the color that I'm working on now, and I think I've done all the areas that are down here, but I have this whatever it's in these upper areas. And then I think there's some other lighter, like purple colors that are going here. I did some very light purple here, but there's some other shades in there. So you can kind of see the shape of the violet here. And these are, I guess, more leaves down here or something. Yeah, and then a violet. There's one over here. You can see. So this is coming along pretty well. I don't know exactly how I'm gonna make it into a sachet tote thing. That's I have to I showed the instructions. I was talking to my sister about this scissors case, and like I couldn't quite. I was sitting in I guess it was at church. I was thinking about it, and I was like, I can't visualize how this works. How the the instructions you know, go along. And so I was talking over with my sister. She and I were driving, I guess it was on Sunday. We were driving from church to this restaurant where to meet my parents for lunch, and we were talking about the instructions of this, and I was trying to explain, you know, I was trying to visualize it and explain it talk it over with my sister about it. Like, does this make sense? I'm thinking about this. He's like, that doesn't happen. You know, how does this work and how does that work? And I'm like, I don't know. So she was over here the other day, and I was able to show her the little finishing instructions for this, and she was like, okay, that makes more sense. And she was explaining how it worked, and so I think I've got it figured out now. But this sachet tote idea, I still don't know. I'll have to talk it over with her, I guess, at length, and see what she thinks, and see if she has some ideas, and we can make that work a little better. I did give my brother-in-law's sister the bookmarks that I made for her. That her birthday was recently the 29th, I believe. So I was able to give her those bookmarks for her birthday. And so I have this little sachet tote for her mother that I want to finish that. So I think that is about it. With those two projects were all I worked on this week, and I probably will maybe work on them, especially the scissors case, because I really, really, really want to finish that before May 1st, before anything else, so that I have time to work on the finishing of it, the FFO part of it, so that I can get that out of the way before Stitchinanigans in April. Because even though it's already February, it's February. Is today Groundhog Day? February 2nd, yeah. So really I only, it's this month and next month, and then there's April, right? April 11th is Stitchinanigans. And so, I want to have everything in place beforehand. I don't want to be staying up all night, the night before or whatever, And I want to have it done and just out of the way and ready to go. And I don't even know what project I'm going to take this tree. It's still too far away for me to know what I'm going to be working on. I might, do. I don't know, because people talk about how, when you go on a retreat like that, you don't want anything you're going to have to really concentrate on, or you're not going to stitch that much when you're there because you'll be talking or whatever. I don't know. I don't know if I'll be doing that much talking. I don't know. It's a bunch of, I'll be there with a bunch of people that, on the one hand, I know, because I've, seen a lot of Flosstube channels, and on the other hand, I don't know, because I've never met these people, of course, in real life. And so it's a little hard for me to know how at ease I will feel about talking to people, and, or how much I'll just be going, oh, I'm just gonna stitch. But, so, I want to take projects something that, that I can work on without too much thinking, but I also want to take something that I want to work on. If I'm not done with Daily Walk in the Woods, maybe I'll take that one, because I can, it's kind of small. I can work on one tree here and one tree there. I don't know. I'll have to look through my things and see if there's something I could take. I might take Santa's house. I haven't worked on Santa's house since before Christmas, I guess. Um, and I might work on that one maybe. I don't know. That's kind of difficult too. It's very detailed and lots of stuff. So um, I don't know. I'll have to look through my things and see if I can find something I can work on. That doesn't take too much thinking in case I spend a lot of time talking. And I've been trying to think. I need to save up money. I want to go to the attic. I want to be able to buy stuff. I want to have some money to spend there. And so I last night, excuse me, or early this morning, I spent some time looking at my Stitch shenanigans, like emails and private messages and stuff, and trying to figure out, uh, you know, who else is going and how much money people are thinking of spending at the attic, and excuse me, and like how much my hotel room would be and blah blah blah. So trying to think like doing financial cogitating over the finances of how much money I'm going to spend and how much money I'm going to have to spend, and uh, getting kind of excited about it a little bit, about it coming up. um, Hair or something on my face, sorry. But yeah, so it's not as far away as it seemed, I guess. A couple of months, and it's gonna be here. So it's gonna be exciting. It's the first retreat I've gone to, so I'm excited to go on that. Um, but anyway, so hopefully I'll have some finishes before that. Soon I'll have some finishes. Um, I'm hoping, and then I still have 7 other projects to move on to. So yeah. Okay, so I think that's about it. Um, Again, I'm Elizabeth Martinez, phantastitches. I don't think I said phantastitches. Um, I've been wanting to kind of change my channel name to phantastitches, but that's kind of I guess I don't know if I have to start a whole new channel, or I don't know what the process is for changing my name. But like if you put in Elizabeth Martinez in YouTube, like 1,000 people, a bunch of people come up, because my name is as common as dirt. So if you put in phantastitches, it's a little bit it narrows the field. So that's why I try to say that. And I guess I started this YouTube channel a long time ago, before I started Flosstube. So my name was in there as Elizabeth Martinez, and I wanted to do phantastitches, because Fantagray is the name I've used online for years, and I wanted to put stitches in there, of course. But I haven't changed the name on my YouTube channel. I don't know if I know how this necessarily. Um, if somebody knows how I could go about doing that, I'd appreciate that. Um, it would be easier, I think, for me and for my sort of online identity, if you will, for YouTube. Since this is the only thing I use the YouTube channel for, really, is for Flosstube. Um, but anyway, I'd like to change that if I can, but I just don't know how. I'm not technically adept enough, or I don't know if it's possible, whatever. So, but anyway, so phantastitches helps to narrow the Elizabeth Martinez field, if you're having to look for it or whatever. But anyway, so I'm Elizabeth Martinez, phantastitches, in Flosstube, and I'm also in the Friday Off the Grid group as Elizabeth Martinez, because that's my name on Facebook. And on Instagram, I'm Fanta Gray. I post that way. Some of my Flosstube finishes, and it's also my personal channel. I don't post that much on Instagram, except for now. I've been trying to post my my cross stitch things on there. Yeah. Anyway, so again, welcome for my returning subscribers. Thank you for watching. For anybody who stumbled across my channel thank you for watching. And I will try to be back next week to do another update. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks. Bye.